Fantastic. Fantastic. I think the conversation about how when you create these kinds of programs is always, especially when it takes a global scope, right?
Hmm.
Whether it's a program or a partnership like the LeBron James and Hennessy one.
Mm.
I think for me, in the back of my mind is always, sometimes maybe the complexity of, of driving relevance across multiple markets with this one global sort of
Yep.
relationship or partnership. Can you talk to us a little about that, and in terms of that partnership and what the plans are, whether for the region, and also any other sort of like partnership of that nature that's really driving local relevance as well.
Yeah, so that was a very exciting partnership, and I think two greats, right? So Hennessy collaborating with LeBron was just amazing, and I think shared similar values, similar ambitions, um, and so that's why it worked particularly well. And I think with our NBA partnership, it was really also about the off-court culture, and
Right,
celebrating that off-court culture
right,
as well. So it was very symbiotic, and I would say the global team did a great job on that because it was very relevant across many markets. And I think that's
absolutely,
my job, our job, as a team, and in market and in region, is to make sure that we're implementing programs, if globally developed, that are relevant to our markets. So we don't just take what the global brand team develop and implement it. We make sure that we think it's relevant, and with the local marketing teams, we make decisions around which programs are relevant or not for their respective markets.
right, right. I think you were you there was I think it was one of your champagne brands and the work you did
Yeah.
with female entrepreneurs. I was just curious because I think that one of the challenges I've been given with the Diary of CMO is, I think it was at the close of last year, and had someone made a comment about bringing on more female marketing and business
Mm.
leaders. It was a call out and a challenge. Even though I mean personally, I haven't. My plan is to make sure that I represent the industry as much as possible, whether from a demographic standpoint or otherwise. So I'm always excited about the conversations that have to do with women, and I know that some of your brands do something within that space as
Mm.
well. I'd love for you to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a program I'm actually very proud of, and we've been growing it for a number of years now. It's called Bold, and essentially it's to, if I link back to what we spoke about earlier, it's to really celebrate Madame Clicquot. She was one of the world's first businesswomen, of her time. She was 27 when she took over the house. And at the time, businesswomen weren't even allowed to open a bank account, or women weren't allowed to open a bank account, let me say. So she really was pioneering. And this program came about actually in order to celebrate that, but to also inspire entrepreneurs. And we did some research. We did a study, and this barometer study actually revealed some really interesting insights for us, which is that women need people to look up to. They need people to be inspired by. And what they called entrepreneurs, so entrepreneurs that wanting to be entrepreneurs but are not yet, also women who wanted to be entrepreneurs needed to see successful entrepreneurs to give them that nudge, to give them that confidence. And of course, there's a lot of awards programs out there. And what we decided at Veuve Clicquot, and I was really fortunate to be part of the team for many years who were curating this program, we decided that we needed to celebrate women who were doing these hard things because it's hard, and I've personally been a judge for a few years and have listened to some of the courage and the incredible things these women have overcome, particularly in Africa. And we really believe that if we could find a way to support women as they rose, to give them visibility, to celebrate their rise, to give them encouragement, even sometimes it's as simple as that, it's just some encouragement from like minded women that could be really meaningful to them. And it was a way of celebrating Madame Clicquot's audacity and marrying that with, what we saw was needed in the world. So for me, it's a topic I'm really passionate about. In South Africa, we're in year 4 of the Bold Woman Awards, and we've had some phenomenal winners who have really gone on to enjoy the win, leverage the win, and it's helped them to get great visibility and to support their business to grow. And we're in year 2 in Nigeria. We had an incredible winner in Nigeria last year. I think she had the whole room in tears because she was just so moving what she's accomplished. And yeah, it's a program I'm really proud of because I have tangibly seen the impact it's had. So I would encourage anyone who's interested to apply and to enter. It will happen again in South Africa this year and in Nigeria, and I think it's critical that women get exposed. So it's a great platform for exposure because we give great PR and visibility to those that are shortlisted, and of course the winner. And the winner actually goes to Veuve Clicquot and has a vine planted in their name. So it's a really wonderful
Good.
moment. But we also have, for those not entering, we have something called the Bold Open Database. And again, this is in the spirit of really helping give visibility to entrepreneurs. So open database, anyone can load their business into this database. And actually, if anyone's searching for a particular skill or need, they can search on this open database and these entrepreneurs and their businesses will come up. So I think that's another great tool that women can use. And it's been growing over the years. And again, really, really great to see so many women from Africa who've signed up. So if someone's looking for a caterer, they can search for a caterer. If someone's looking for a film producer or a photographer or a set designer, they can go and search if they're wanting to support female entrepreneurs.
Fantastic. What's the name of the platform again?
It's called Bold Open Database, the Veuve Clicquot Bold Open Database, where you can sign up. And then it's Bold Woman Awards, Veuve Clicquot's Bold Woman Awards, which you'll see some great press coverage when it goes live in respective markets.
Fantastic. I love the idea of the sort of like a directory. I love that idea. And if there's a link that you can share, I'll just leave that in the description for
absolutely. That would be great
to really check it out. I think
that would be great.
That's definitely amazing. I have spoken openly in recent times about the work that I had the opportunity to do with the brand Jameson. So I just hold on, Aimee. Hold on, Aimee. And I think this was I had the opportunity of working on the brand for about 4 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I like to say about the brand is, at least specifically for the Nigerian market, is when they came in, the things that they did and how, very in a few years, the brand kind of grew and became what it is today, at least in this market. And I cited that because the wines and spirit category, I think, besides the CSD category, I think is one of the most competitive, if not the most competitive, in the market. And I'm just curious to hear from you. What are your? I mean, as much as you can share, what are your sort of like plans in terms of like really building? Again, I know that it's really challenging because of the stature of the brands that you oversee. Just curious, how are you thinking about growth for the brands across the continent or across the region you oversee? How are you thinking about growth? How are you thinking about both from a brand standpoint and obviously from a business standpoint as well?
Well, you're absolutely right. I can't share too much, but I can share, I guess, what I hope for. I hope our brands continue to resonate with consumers. I think we've been very fortunate to have some amazing success stories within our portfolio. But as I said earlier, it's critical that we stay humble, that we stay curious, that we connect with people on the ground, making sure that we're staying in tune. And I think staying true to what we are, I think that for me is very important to be authentic to what the brand is and not to be faddish, not to jump onto fads, but to really be true to the DNA, what we call the DNA of our brands, and find ways to express that DNA in a way that's relevant to our consumers in the respective markets. And as you said, that's really about tailoring your messaging, tailoring your activities, tailoring your approach market by market. It's not, painting everything with the same paintbrush. And often people talk about Africa And I have to, explain to people like Africa's not a country. Like within Africa, it's very different market by market. And I think that's very true. And we have to make sure that we treat, it was funny actually. We were talking the other day and someone said, why do they say Africa and then they call out individual European markets? Like we need to say South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana. And it's so true, And it was in another article. But sometimes I think people lump Africa together as, one place, one people, and it's really not the case. So I think making sure that we're really tapping into, as you say, local cultures, local nuances, relying on, real insights to drive our business forward, I think will be critical. And then making sure that we're uh, being purposeful and being precise and concise and directive, and making choices. And to your point, we're going to have to make tough choices sometimes because we can't do everything and we can't be everywhere. But that's really what I'm trying to drive with my team, is making sure that we're choosing certain things that we do and making sure we do them great and with a brilliant impact, with luxury finesse, with the attention to detail that our brands deserve.
Okay. All right. I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that. I was going to ask as well, kind of along these lines is, when you think about different verticals, when you think about different categories,
Yeah.
for example, if you think about CSD as an example, that category, to a large extent, you would say price plays a really significant role. It's almost like part of the entire business or marketing or business strategy. You couldn't say the same thing for luxury brands, right? Not in the way you'd say for CSD brands. When you think about financial services, you think about maybe, for example, distribution or personalization of the experience in that sense. So when you think about wines and spirits, what would you say are the critical levers, a brand has to pull to have a chance at, succeeding?
That's a great question, and we could talk for a long time on that. We might have to have a follow-up. But I think experiences are key. I personally believe in experiences. I think consumers are hungry for experiences. Consumers are curious. They want to, and it's not only about experiences to tell others about on their social feeds. I think people are genuinely curious to connect, to discover, to learn. And I think that's really key, and I think finding that balance between sharing what we call our intrinsics, our craftsmanship, our quality, where people are super curious to discover and learn about, sharing our commitment to soils and our sustainability initiatives, but then also giving people an opportunity to just connect human to human, whether it's a New Year's Eve party with Moet and Shandon, or it's a Bold Woman Awards moment to connect like-minded women, or it's a Hennessy MBA partnership experience on the courts that we've just had painted by beautiful artists. I think experiences are critical in our industry, and experiences allow people to really feel the ethos of the brand. So I think for me that's something critical and something that I really look to nurture, will look to nurture and continue to nurture. And that's really where I feel like, the rubber hits the road, right? It's where consumers, they might have seen, heard, witnessed, but then at the point at which they come to an event, come to an experience, that's when they feel what our brands are all about and what our maisons are all about.
Interesting. So experiences, one. I was going to ask you, I think just by sheer observation, and this got nothing to do with my experience in the category or whatever, it appears like a lot of expectations is usually laid on sort of like brand endorsements. I mean, we mentioned the LeBron one just now. I think for other key players within this category have also done similar things, whether at the global level or at the regional level.
Yes.
What's your take on using brand endorsements of that nature to really drive whatever the brand objectives are or the business objectives are for luxury brands like yours in the event that any brand wants to go down that road, how would you advise that they navigate that? Whether from a standpoint of how you select who you want to select for that, and how you also maybe extract as much value as possible from that partnership as well. Like, just kind of give me your take
Yeah, of
when it comes
course.
to those kinds of brand endorsements and partnership.
I think the answer is actually in your question,
Mm,
which is depending on the brand objective. So you said whatever the brand objectives. Actually, that's the answer. I think
got
you
it.
choose depending on your objectives, depending on what your business goal is. You know, if you're trying to drive awareness, well, you know, then the role of the celebrity perhaps is to create scale, to create reach, to create more eyeballs on what you're talking about. But if your role is to connect with a certain demographic or a certain consumer or a certain passion point, then you might use someone else. So, for example, if you're wanting to tap into art, you know, working with an artist makes a lot of sense, right? And if you're,
Right.
you know, so I don't think it's a one size fits all. And I think the answer really lies in, well, what are you trying to do and what is your objective and how might a celebrity endorsement facilitate you achieving that goal or achieving that objective? I think it's that way around as opposed to
Mm,
that's an amazing celebrity. Let's work with it. It has to be authentic. There has to be, you know, the
yeah.
LeBron and Hennessy, there's so much connection. There's so much, you know, realness. He loves Hennessy. You know, he was quoted in our press release talking about how much he loves Hennessy. Recently, we just launched another campaign. I'm not sure if you would have seen it yet with Glenmorangie with Harrison Ford, and you know he loves Glenmorangie, and so I think it's really also about good fit between the brand and the message you want to deliver and the person. You know, I think for me that's really important is authenticity and the story you want to tell. You know, how might that individual, that person, help tell the story you want to tell and help connect the dots between your message and the consumer receiving it.
Wow. Wow. I'm
Does
curious,
that?
like in your sort of professional experience, um, is there any you know, as you spoke about experiences for wines and spirits, like is there
Mm.
what are the examples of some of the experiences you've seen outside of Moet Hennessy?
Oh,
And it doesn't
okay. I
it,
was
do- it
gonna.
doesn't it
Lots
doesn't
came to
have to
mind.
be
Inside.
it doesn't doesn't have to be within the category,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Yeah, it could be any other luxury goods outside of wines and spirits.
hmm
Still within the family, the bigger
Where they've
LVMH
done this
family,
well.
yeah, where they've done it very well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, actually, as you were talking, what came to mind is Tiffany. I think what Tiffany did was phenomenal, where they roamed around the world with a beautiful launch when they sort of relaunched, if I could say, with the Beyonce campaign. I thought that was just stunning. I don't know if you had a chance to see
Right.
that.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that actually. I saw that.
For me,
Curious.
that was really a great example. It was beautifully crafted. It was experiential. It was, you know, her voice, you know, it was true to, you know, her offering. It felt, you know, it felt really authentic. It looked beautiful on her. Just felt like a really good fit. And I think I loved seeing, you know, all the different launch events and how they had these beautiful projection mapping and I mean, again, from afar, I think they did a beautiful job of, you know, relaunching Tiffany when it was taken over by LVMH.
I think that's a very good example actually, because I loved that as well. Actually, I love that.
Mm,
I was going to ask you about tech. You know, I mean, every marketing conversation today, it's almost, I mean, tech features, right?
mm.
Whether it's AI or any form of tech or whatever features. And I can't help but wonder, like, for you, um, when you think about, you know, the applications of these technologies, whether it's AI or any other thing, um, how how are you looking to leverage that for the work that you
Yeah, it's fascinating, really. I think I keep I'm always amazed if my team comes to me and they share something and it's so quick, you know, quicker than normal. And then they're like, we have to admit we use blah blah blah. And I'm like, that's okay, you're allowed to use, you know, all these different tools. But it's no, I think it's fascinating the speed at which we can do things now that we didn't before. Before we would, you know, ask someone globally for something and now we can just you know make up a quiz ourselves if we want to have a little internal quiz about something we can just you know ask our internal tool and it's yeah no it's incredible but I think I see technology as being an enabler. I don't
Right.
think it's going to replace, creativity, and I don't see us replacing a beautiful advertising campaign with AI necessarily. But let's see, who knows how it will evolve. But I think there's a role of a stylist and a photographer and a producer. Like, they're creative people that, we need that to make the magic, to make it a really beautiful, luxurious campaign. I think those creative people are key. But where I think technology will be an aid for us is in the behind the scenes, in the day-to-day work,
Yeah.
synthesizing things, all of that. I think that's
Yeah.
fascinating how we can use it to be a tool for efficiency. But I I I would hope that we don't let it replace the role of creativity. So maybe it can talk more to the science part that I spoke about earlier and less to the
Yeah.
art part.
Got
And
it.
again, who knows? Who knows how it will evolve? But as it stands today, I think it's important to see its role for what it can do, but not take away some other things that I really believe the human passion and human creativity is still required. And then I think in terms of marketing itself, I think we're all seeing people get really curious to get off screen sometimes as well, and to
Mm.
genuinely connect face to face. So that's really interesting to watch and see how that evolves. In Amsterdam, they have, phone-free connect sessions and cafes that, you're not allowed a laptop and a cell phone to really allow people to connect. And there's a piano and a guitar and some games. And actually, you go to the cafe to unwind and relax, but you know, tech free. And I think that's really fascinating as well. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how it evolves over time, but we have to embrace it and we have to explore how it can be an enabler, but also be conscious of the fact that at the end of the day, we, as I said, it's about from nature to communities. We're
Yeah.
products that are made from the soil, and we need to be with people as well. So I think that's really important.